We've gotten to a point I can talk to a thing and it sounds like a human and it can lie like a human too.
So can you trust artificial intelligence? Can you trust technology if people who are building it can have inherent biases? I think it becomes more of an ethical question as well as that technical of, can you trust it?
It's going to give you an output that it thinks you want because it's a pleasing engine at the end of the day. We've gotten to a point I can talk to a thing and it sounds like a human and it can lie like a human too. Welcome to Accelerating Humans, a podcast about tech, business, and the real human messiness in between. On today's episode, we're digging into bias in AI, not in the abstract ethics panel sense, but in the real practical, why did this software just reject every resume from Kentucky sense? I talked with Julianna about what bias actually looks like inside the tools we're using, who's responsible, and how much of it is the AI versus the people who built it or deployed it. Spoiler, the answer is not as clean as you think. Let's start here. AI isn't objective. It's not neutral. It's definitely not wise. What is it good at? Guessing what you want to hear based on the data it was fed. And the folks doing that feeding, biased. Just like me, just like you. This episode is about the gap between what we think AI is doing and what it's actually doing. It's easy to blame the algorithm when something goes wrong. Blame the software, blame the system. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The tech didn't write itself. It's built by humans, deployed and maintained by humans, and yeah, often misunderstood by humans. We talk about AI like it's some kind of magic box. But if your applicant tracking system is quietly weeding out whole groups of people just because someone set it up that way years ago, that's not evil AI. That's bad design. Or worse, nobody bothered to check. So today we're unpacking how bias creeps into everything from recruiting software to predictive models. We'll talk about tools that are supposed to help, like retrieval augmented generation, and why they still need actual human judgment. And we'll ask the tough question, are we just using AI as a scapegoat for our own choices? If you run a business, manage a team, or want to avoid building a robot that mirrors your worst habits, this episode's for you. Let's get into it.
Hi, good morning, Bert.
Good morning. How are you?
Today's topic, bias in technology, bias in AI.
Okay.
I think you have a really broad take on, well, really, what is the technology and what is the AI that we can see a bias or maybe not see a bias in?
Well, I think that this is a really important and interesting topic, at least for me, because I'm always trying to figure out how do I look at this without various biases entering my decision making. And it could be, and I'm a very much a technologist, so I want to break things down as what kind of bias. Is it a perception bias? Is it a racial bias? Is it an age bias? Is it what type of bias in particular am I looking at? So I need to understand, what am I trying to do here? And when I'm deploying AI, if I structured it in such a way that it's going to have an implicit bias built into it, or is it something that the output from the AI is fine, then my own personal take on it is going to add the bias. And
Yeah,
it's hard to parse sometimes.
yeah. I think what's so interesting is we have to remember that technology is something that people build, and people are inherently biased. And where does that, or can that translate into a code? So when we think about technology, I also think that technology is very similar. Right? We put it into the STEMs, right? So science, technology, engineering, math, and they always say numbers don't lie.
Sure.
But as we know, you can use statistics to benefit yourself. You can do predictive modeling and not include certain
I don't know
data
if you can
points.
see this one, but this is a How to Lie with Statistics book.
Yeah.
It's literally on
Yeah.
the quick draw list here. But
Yeah. Which I'm going to have to borrow that book once I get through all my other books.
sure.
But that's a great thing, right? So I think this comes into like, can we trust AI? So can you trust artificial intelligence? Can you trust technology if people who are building it can have inherent biases? Like, I think it becomes more of an ethical question as well as that technical of, can you trust it?
Okay, so this is a really fascinating topic, and I would encourage you to look this up. There's Anthropic, which has the AI Claude, has
Mm-hmm.
published on a regular basis the actual background for how they've trained the AI. It's about a 10,000 word document. So dig in. Go and
Should I do that before or after I read the book?
well, I mean, there's all of the things, Juliana.
Yeah.
But they published this doc, and it comes out basically it's saying, okay, this is the AI, this is what it does, this is how it works, and we're trying to control for bias as we're building these things. We're trying to
Mm-hmm.
control for bias as we're deploying systems. So part of that is with one of these AIs, it's going to give you an output that it thinks you want because it's a pleasing engine at the end of the day. One of the things I love about them is that, and we can talk about this later, but basically, I ask it a question, it immediately gives me an answer. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
procrastinate, doesn't worry about anything else like that. It gives me an answer, and it has a huge amount of data to draw from. The thing is, the answer that it's going to give me is a predictive answer based on the way that it was trained and also on what it thinks I
Mm-hmm.
want contextually. And that
Okay.
can be truth or it can be a lie. I mean, we talk about hallucinations in AI. So sometimes you end up with something that isn't factually accurate and it will hallucinate. Um, it'll hallucinate anything from the citation for the actual work that it's giving you. So it'll make up whole cloth ideas or legal cases or research papers if you don't watch it. So personally, when I'm working with it, one of the things that I'm trying to do is make sure that there are controls in place so that the
Yeah.
information that I get from the AI is in the format that I want and that it is something that I can trust. Um, the couple of specific tools that you can use, one of the things I'm personally using right now is something called retrieval augmented generation. And fancy word, but what it actually means is I control what goes into the AI so that the output is going to be more bounded. So I'm going to ask it about
Well,
information
so that
and ask it to
actually,
put it out in a certain format using only certain input. So it's not going to go to the wider web or its full training. It's instead going to go look at a solution set.
I mean, I'm sure that if I was still in college, I would have used some form of AI to help me brainstorm an essay or write some type of dissertation. And that's also kind of scary to be like, oh, AI is going to be predictive and it's going to, oh, sorry, we have a little guest cat here.
Hey, guess Scott.
Um, you know, AI is going to be predictive and AI is going to think that whatever you really want to hear. But then I do think that comes back to one of the probably arguments that AI, at least AI right now, is not going to steal your job, is you still have to be knowledgeable on what you're talking about. You still have to double check AI's work. So a great example is I was using GPT for
Mm-hmm,
something and I wanted to see if it was going to make a graphic for me.
mm-hmm,
And it was something to do with the states. And long story short, it forgot a few states that I was asking
yeah.
specifically about. And I was like, no, that's incorrect. You forgot Kentucky in this scenario. And they were like, "Oh yes, I'm sorry, that's correct. Like what you're looking for, yeah, Kentucky does fit into those
And
parameters."
they gave me the same home again.
And yeah, they also wonder, Are people so the question I had was states that have local income
Sure.
taxes. And I think about it as okay, who's telling GPT that Kentucky, Pennsylvania, areas of New York don't have local income tax? Where is that predicting coming from? Is that information out on the web that it's pulling for? Because now the person training the GPT, is it training it correctly? Or is it saying, well, most people who are asking GPT are looking at a big state that does have it, like Kentucky, we just forget about, except for
Sure.
when we want some maker's mark.
Well, okay. So the GPT that you're talking about, that generative pre-trained transformer,
Mhm.
is engaged in a huge amount of protocols that are training it. So the big ones that you're talking about, like ChatGPT, you're looking at billions, like 1.6, 1.7 billion protocols that are built into it. So a human's not sitting in a back room trying to figure this out. You're looking at huge arrays of technology, a bunch of different layers of neural nodes, basically, that are stacked up. And because of the nature of it, once it hits a certain threshold of nodes, it starts behaving kind of like a human. So I'll find a Wolfram Alpha post and send it to you after this. And I thought it was just fascinating understanding. Okay,
You could also put it in the show
yeah,
notes
you
so
put it on the
everyone
show.
listening can also.
Yeah, but it's just fascinating, and it's a deep read, and there's a lot of math in it. But at the same time, it kind of explains why I'm able to talk to this thing, and it sounds like a person. It's neat. We've gotten to a point I can talk to a thing that sounds like a human, and it can lie like a human too. But kind of
Mm,
coming back to this idea of limiting what it can give you. That again, that
yeah.
RAG, that retrieval augmented generation, I can limit the data set that's going into it. So if from the context of HR, if I've got an applicant tracking system, I might say that I expect them to have this sort of knowledge, and I would score it
Mhm.
against that, and I would tell it to output in a certain format. And I could train it if I wanted to give everybody a 0 to 10 score based on certain parameters, and then I could set
Yeah.
filters for it to exclude certain individuals. Now, the question is, how is it interpreting different things? How's that been trained?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Well, that goes into something we had discussed earlier off camera, which is a very large HR payroll systems vendor is being sued
Meaning,
because of the AI in their applicant tracking. And I came up and I said, well, because HR technology is my background, everything, whether it's an automation workflow or sometimes an AI, you need to train that AI. So my comeback is always, well, did the end user, so did the recruiter have to train the AI? And how did they train the AI? Or was the AI just going absolutely rogue? But you had a really good take on it as well when it comes to that end user because of your background.
so I lost you for a little bit. You said I had a good take on something. I like that.
Yeah. You had a good take on how this could be happening because of your background, and then that was it.
Okay.
Just your what is your background and your take on, because I said, well, it's probably how they're training the AI if you're able to train this AI system. And you had something different because of your background working in tech and working at help desks and being a BA.
Yeah. So what I would probably ask is, how was it deployed? Who did the
Mhm.
deployment of it? How well did they know what they were doing? Because I might have this giant thing and I'm deploying it for HR. Does HR know what they're doing? Do they know what they're asking for? Um, or was it just kind of installed and we took whatever the default settings were? And once they have it, did they get trained on it? Did they know how to use it? And that's, some do, some don't. You get a wide gamut of people whenever you get in a large enough organization. Some people are very technically proficient, know how to use the tools, want to deploy the tools, leverage them. And then you've got some that don't want to change from what they've always done. I think that there's a lot of value in both of those. But if you've got a hiring manager, like I was a hiring manager at a publicly traded company. I would put out a very primo job, if you would, and I would set it as work from wherever you want. I don't care if you're calling in from the Caribbean. We're going to pay you good, and I just need you to do the job. So work from home, good pay. It's a pretty cushy job, frankly. Just do the work. So when I push something out like that with minimum qualifications, I get just utterly slammed, and I'd get hundreds and hundreds of applicants. Yeah. And part of it is people that are just frankly, they're using bots to go and answer any work from home job that in any way kind of meets their requirements. Got some that are, lovingly crafting submission, and I would get just killed. And I had to figure out some way of how do I wade through this. And, talking to some recruiters recently, I was seeing more of a shift from I'd call somebody who would do the filtering for me and just send me participants or send me applicants, as opposed to me having to dig through that. So big old frustration.
Well, do you think it's easy to now blame AI for essentially bias that might have already been there?
Oh yeah.
Just in the workplace or within a project that someone might be working on? Like, because for me, I'm like, well, is AI just that mirror?
Well,
or now are we just being like, oh, it was AI's fault. AI did it all.
Everybody needs a scapegoat, right? So it's easy to blame AI because it's kind of a black box and they don't understand it. But it's a tool, and it's built by humans, and it's deployed by humans. And like any tool, you can misuse it. Like there's a concept called Maslow's hammer. So when all you have is a hammer, every problem's a nail, right? How come? I was like,
that's like me with my hot glue gun. When I have my hot glue gun, everything could be hot glued.
Oh yeah. Well, hold on one second. Yes.
When you have the drill.
Yes. That's a hot glue gun. Have you not seen the battery?
Oh no, that's a heavy duty hot glue gun. I have not seen. That's yeah. Listen, I've for another podcast, I have stories of building costumes in high school and all the projects with hot glue. So hot glue, maybe even better than a hammer.
I mean, it sticks better.
So Bert, I think to help wrap this up, what are ways that we can brainstorm if you are small business, medium size, solopreneur, enterprise level businesses, that you can be cognizant of bias in technology or bias in AI? Like, what are some things that you think going into it, again, as a CTO or an individual person who's like, well, I'm going to get an AI tool and it's going to do 5 jobs and I'm going to save thousands of dollars on payroll.
Yeah.
I think that for people listening, they're like, okay, there's bias in technology. I mean, there's bias in life. What are the ways that we can, now that we're aware of it, be better or do better in our businesses around this bias?
Well, I think that's a really deep question. The first thing I would say is don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. When it comes to something like this technology, you want to understand its limitations. So start by putting in controls that help you manage the bias that you're going to encounter. And with something like an applicant tracking system, one of the first questions I'd ask is, can I go through and see every single applicant that's applied to my system? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And if I can look at every single one, can I compare that to what I'm presented? And if there's a big delta there, that's an indicator to me that something's happening. So do I need to go back and change the filters, or was it filtering it before I got it? But
I almost, in my mind, what popped up was the image of having an unpaid intern.
Yeah.
You almost have to treat AI or technology like the unpaid intern, where you have to check all the work.
Well, that's exactly what you're doing, especially when you're talking about replacing employees. This is a topic for another day, but this is something very close to my heart. I really like mentoring younger people that are in development and in business analysis. This is really close to me. And the reason for that is somebody did that for me. It taught me how to BA, taught me how to build, taught me about the software development lifecycle, taught me how to build my own. If you don't have that pipeline of young people that start junior and become senior, then you're missing a huge and important step in developing your future workforce. When we're talking about deploying AI on a grand scale, we're talking about replacing people. Who's going to get replaced? I see this as two things. I'm going to replace the junior people that are going to be doing the scut work, the hard, annoying data entry work, where they actually learn something. They learn how the systems are put together and they ask questions. And I'm going to lose the very senior people that are expensive and specialized. So what does that leave me? And right now, I've got a functional thing. I can save some money. And in 10 years, I'm going to have gutted my organization and lost an entire generation of people that are going to run stuff in the future. So we have to be careful with AI. It's a double-edged sword. It's very powerful.
Yeah. I think that for a lot of people looking to integrate AI, again, because we talked about the bias, using things that are very black and white, and things that, for me, on my personal way of looking at it, not things that are very detail oriented.
Sure.
Because AI likes to drop a lot of that very nuanced, very specific detail. So I think AI is great if you are looking to replace someone to sit on a meeting and take notes. Because everyone still has notes and you're really going to write down the important dates, important times. But AI, I think, does a really good job of note taking, as an example.
Yeah.
Do you want AI to be your executive assistant quite yet? Maybe, maybe not. Because, AI may not know the difference between, Bert Carroll, Robert Carroll being the same person, and now it's confused where a person does get that. So those are the little details that I mentioned. I do think it's a great brainstorming tool for creative things, not necessarily to replace that creativity, because like we said, it can be pulling information that just isn't true. But I definitely think that there are, for those lower stake tasks, whether it's a large company or a solopreneur, where as long as they're aware, it can really make an impact in their business.
Well, remember, you can control for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly powerful. I like using AI personally as an executive assistant because at 2:00 in the morning when I'm up and I'm doing something, I can still talk to it. And my PA would be like, "Go to sleep," which might be the right answer, but the AI is very happy to keep engaging with me, and it's actually prompting me to go the next step and the next step and the next step. And you got to be very careful that it's designed like a smartphone is. You've got a dopamine response cycle that's going in your head. And the further you go, the more it's going to reinforce that.
Yeah. All right. So we dove into a lot of things on this episode.
Yeah.
I know we can keep talking, but if we keep talking, then we're not going to have anything left for future episodes.
Oh, we have so many things.
Well, Bert, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. You as well. Thank you for the time. And next time, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for your interest in accelerating humans. If you'd like to know more, you can visit us at www.acceleratinghumans.com. You can also reach out to us at either Bert, B-E-R-T, at acceleratinghumans.com, or Julianna, Julianna, at acceleratinghumans.com.